it's like an open forum, so everybody is basically allowed to go in, and we actually like to hear what people think and have to say. So, and we're not that many people, so I mean, how many are we actually? 5, 10, 15, something like this. I cannot count, but it's yeah, it's a small forum. We can easily be frank and open to each other. Will it be recorded, Christian? I don't know. Will it?
Yeah, we're trying to, but so let's think it will be recorded.
Does it? Maybe helps not for the experience. But if anybody has bad bandwidth, we can turn the cameras off again if that's better. So please write in the chat if you have bad bandwidth, so then we can turn off the cameras, so we don't kill the experience. Okay, but Christian, you're still there, even though that you have bad bandwidth, I guess.
I also think I'll stay off cam. I have a bit of allergies, so my eyes are a bit red. So yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah. Just because you've been watching football all night. Okay. Can you see a presentation that's named Welcome to Tagion Townhall, number 7?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. That's now. These are the topics which we prepared for today. And again, write in the chat, jump on stage. Jonas is going to say something about tokenomics. There are some updates on the tokenomics, on some especially definitions and clarifications, which we had quite a lot of questions to. Then we have a roadmap, update on where we are and where we're going, both technically and commercially. Then we have a short technical status, trying not to go too much in depth. And then basically an open discussion, and we expect to be done around 9, but of course you are free to hang around. So I think by this, Jonas, I think I'll try to close this down again. Stop my presentation. You will present or say something regarding the tokenomics, which you've been working
on. Yes, I will. See, I think I've shared my screen now. Is that correct? And then if I do like that, can you see? I cannot see anything, actually. Can you see this?
I can see a screen, and all of you others just press what he's sharing on your screens, then it will enlarge on your screens as well.
All right.
Yeah.
So as Thijs just mentioned, we have done some updates to our tokenomics. So I'll just briefly walk you through those. It's not something major. Just some small adjustments and clarifications. So an overview here. The revised tokenomics include an updated token allocations. We also have added some vesting terms on the allocations for the teams and founders. And finally, I'll walk you through or give you a clear overview of the token supply. And I said before, these changes are minors. It's some small modifications that we implemented, and they will not adversely affect the investors, our current investors. On the contrary, the changes we made may actually benefit the investors, as the vesting periods for the team and founder tokens have been tightened. So we have simply done this as a way of underscoring our long-term commitment to the project. You'll see how that works in a minute. So token allocations, the only changes we made was simply due to the fact that we initially 3.5 billion TDN tokens were allocated for public pre-sales. But only 3.1 billion tokens were sold. So the remaining tokens have been reassigned to post-sales allocations, which now totals 4.4 billion TDN. So it actually doesn't have any effect. It's just for clarity. All right. Then on the vesting terms, we have added some new vesting terms for the team and founder allocations. And as I said before, we have simply done this to ensure the investors about our long-term commitment to the project. So 20% of the team and founder allocations, which amounts to 600 million TDN, they are subject to time-based vesting schedules. And essentially, we haven't changed any of that. But the remaining 2.4 billion TDN, which represents 80% of the tokens allocated for team and founders, we have subjected them to both price and event-based vesting conditions. And notably, we have done it in such a way that the price-based vesting will commence only after we have achieved each of the milestone listed here, which is network decentralization and exchange listing. So once we have reached each of these milestones, then we will look into price-based vesting, or sorry, the price-based vesting is triggered. So for each of these price targets that you see listed here, we have 5 in all. 20% of the tokens will be vested, which is 480 million TTN. So yeah, that's the vesting conditions that we added to the team and founder allocations. All right. And then also for clarity, and also based on demand from some of you, the investors, we have tried to bring some clarity to the token supply, and we assess the token supply through 4 key metrics, which is max supply, total supply, vested supply, and circulating supply. So I'll just walk you through each of these. Max supply represents the estimated or theoretical maximum number of tokens that will exist. And this is set at 30 billion TDN. This is not a fixed cap, and in the future, it may be adjusted via community consensus. But for now, that's sort of the theoretical max limit. Then you have the total supply, which represents the actual number of tokens in existence as of today. Currently, 18.5 billion tokens exist. Yeah. Then you have vested supply, which represents the current number of tokens that have been vested as of today, indicating that they can be sold, spent, or paid out, or used, or whatever. And as of today, the vested supply stands at almost 2 billion TDN. And then finally, we have the circulating supply, and we have defined circulating supply by the CoinMarketCap's standard, so to say. And it indicates, or it's based on the supply of vested tokens minus those retained by the team, founders, and the card, which includes post-sales tokens and ecosystem incentives. And as of today, the circulating supply is approximately 300 million TDN. We will I think send out an updated tokenomics paper tomorrow, and we'll also publish a Medium article where you can read this, and then if you have any questions, you just let us know. But yeah. There's also just some graphs here to given.
Jonas, I think that's great, right? Can you just go one back, because I think like it can be a bit confusing if you read more white papers or you just sit and click around in CoinMarketCap, right? And I think those terms here, we tried also to understand them from like how the industry interprets those, right? So we get some of the same comparison and you could say standards as well, right? So when you look at the market cap question mark, or I think it's a question mark or info mark in CoinMarketCap, you can go in and see how they define the circulating supply, and that's what Jonas done, and we have made some definitions from there, and then we have calculated those numbers from those definitions. I think that's very important, so we get full clarity and use the same definitions. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Right. And here's just some rough estimates, some projections on the future supply of TDN, both vested supply, which we can see in the next 6 years. We expect to be a bit more than 14 billion TDN. And for the circulating supply, we expect that to approach 5 billion tokens in the next 3 years. But yeah, you can also check out these graphs when we make them public tomorrow. Then also we're gonna just briefly address the when exchange question. So the short answer is that we plan on listing on an exchange whenever the time is right, which we expect to be 2025. And to give you some more clarity on that, provide you with a longer answer, we simply want to wait with listing on an exchange until the network has become sufficiently decentralized. But most importantly, we want to wait until there's like a foundational level of utility. For example, that you can use it for staking, or you can use it to access apps or all sorts of different things. So just to sum it up here, we want to ensure that there's some kind of demand for the token before we list it. So that's why we're not in a hurry. We could get listed tomorrow, but that's not the main priority right now. We want to create long-term value for the ecosystem, where we believe the best way of doing that is to get some of our partners onboarded, and then when the timing is right, we'll get listed. So, but yeah, if you have any inputs, feel free to let us know. Maybe you have some good ideas, something that we haven't considered ourselves. We are always open to that. So let us know. But I think that's more or less it. So unless there's any questions, or Thijs or Christian, if you want to add anything, I don't know. But otherwise, that's it.
Very good walkthrough. Thank you, Jonas. One thing from the chat, there's a question to the price point of 0.01 euro, if that is per Tagion. So could you go back to the slide where you show the 5 price points and just explain that one more time?
Yeah. So this is simply just to say that there are 3 billion tokens allocated for the team and founders, and out of those, 2.4 billion have been locked. They are subjected to vesting conditions, and those vesting conditions are that we, as it says right here, price-based vesting triggers when specific price targets are reached and maintained for at least 30 consecutive days in the secondary market. So whenever the TTN token has been traded above 0.01 euro for no less than 30 days, then 480 million TDN are released to team and founders. And similarly, when it reaches 0.05 euros and is being traded above that threshold for 30 consecutive days, then a similar amount of token is vested, and so forth. Does that make sense? I kind of check the chat right now, so yeah.
That's fine. It does make sense. And just to reiterate, what this is doing is it's making the terms for the team and founders worse because we get harder targets. So we have the price targets, we have the time-based vesting model as well.
Yeah, so essentially we have tied ourselves. we have promised you that we will, we will deliver before we can actually enjoy some of the games. Essentially.
And yeah, and also I forgot to mention the network decentralization and the exchange listing that you also have in the middle here. So yeah, I think this should be clear. Otherwise, please write in the chat.
Yeah. All right.
How much TGN will be in circulation at the time of listing? So that's a good question, Florix. And we've been trying to figure out the current circulating supply. It's actually pretty difficult to calculate, but we did it yesterday, and trying to actually estimate or forecast the future circulating supply can be a bit hard. But we have done this though, and if we look at your chart, Jonas,
yeah,
can you just take the chart? If we say 25, what is our estimated circulation supply in 25?
Let's see. Just a second here. Here we go. Estimated circulating supply in that would be like 1 year from now. That would be 2.5 billion approximately.
Yeah, makes sense. It's normal that the share for the team and founder is so significant as percent of the total supply. I would actually.
I would say, so actually initially we had the amount of tokens allocated for insiders, which includes the team and investors and stuff, private investors. The amount allocated was much higher. We wanted to do what's called like a fair launch, where a significant portion of the tokens are not allocated for insiders, but for the community, or at least earmarked for ecosystem incentives and stuff like that. And I think compared to like the majority of projects, we have allocated a very small portion for insiders, which includes team and founders. So I think I think that's a testimony to the fact that we are more driven by, idealistic visions than greed and stuff like that. So actually, I personally, I think it's we are on the how do you say it? Yeah, we are pretty good in that regard compared to most other projects.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the total supply, right, the max supply and the pools, it's a very little percentage. It's I don't know, I don't have the exact percentage, but to insiders and private investors before go live, is it around 20% or something less than 20, right? It's very little.
Yeah, I think it's at least below 30%. I think it is. I think it's 25% or something like that. I cannot remember it, but you can look it up in the tokenomics paper, or at least you can see the distribution of the tokens. Yeah, and also there's also one other thing that I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, that's also simply the fact that like 50% of the tokens have been allocated to the community. That's not different, as no different from what it was last time, but it's simply, the community will have a big saying in how the majority, or at least 50% of the tokens, are going to be spent. So I think that's quite significant. Yeah. Right.
And I mean, that's also what we believe in, right? We believe in long-term value, and we believe in all the people who contribute in the future should be rewarded for their contributions also in the future, and 2, 4, 5 years, whoever. So we need to have that for the future as well. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
My screen is not shared, right?
No, it's not. But I guess if there's no more questions to this part, then we move on to the next part, right? But it was great questions. If anybody have another question, yeah, smash your keyboard and put it in the chat or jump on stage. So I will just share the next part. Let's see if I can figure it out here. No, this is the DM at Christian. This is not the right thing to share. Now I cannot see the presentation I want to share. Is that like on purpose? I actually don't know if I'll just go through the roadmap and accomplishments for this year, and then we will go as a part 2 into the technical status. I don't know how many of the core developers are actually on this call, to be honest, but I guess some are here. So when we go into the technical statuses, I can probably get some help there on the different topics. So the people actually working with it can actually give it a more detailed update if that's necessary. But anyways, I guess you can see my screen, right? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you cannot see my mouse, right?
Sorry, I muted myself. I don't think so, no.
No. Okay. So, and that's a bit annoying actually, because then I cannot point to where I'm actually going around. If I point here, does that work? Can you then see the mouse? I'm hovering around.
I can't. I don't know if anyone else can, but
Okay, that's annoying. Anyways, there's no like pointer or laser pen, is there? Okay. Anyways, then we start up at the left corner. Like, what did we actually do from January to May this year? Because actually a lot was done. So the system went live 7th December last year, and a lot of things happened there over the first 5 months. First of all, we did the first payout. It come in some different, you could say, tranches. I think we did the first 20, and then we did another 20 and fixed some bugs and did some more and so forth. And we did that in January, start January. So that's great. It was one of the main targets. And then there were quite some 2 releases after, with a lot of basically bug fixing as well. There were different bugs and also performance issues and so forth, which has been fixed in the first 2 releases. The first was in January and the next was in February. And since then, we have not done another release. We are planning a release hopefully on Monday if the testing goes well with the current pre-release that is released also on GitHub. Then here in April, we have been engaged in a comprehensive technical due diligence with a potential new very large partner actually, who has done a very, very comprehensive technical due diligence of what testing frameworks or code and how we basically work, which went well. So that's actually very good, and we are hoping to leverage that to continue working with this partner in the future. And that also meant we needed to finish some documentation. It's not like it's all been done at one time. It's been an ongoing effort, but the documentation is continuously updated by the people working with the different toolings and components and so forth on docs.tagion.org. But the documentation have gone through quite a big overhaul here, the January and February, and also one of the things we needed to have done. So that's very good. Then around end May, We reached 400 wallets, which we have done payouts to as well. So that's actually great. That's a milestone. We also reached. We also got another. I don't know. I'm actually allowed to say who it is, but we have another application starting to playing with and building an MVP on top of the Tagion system, collecting data. So they started building around May as well, and are still building on the system. So that's like what happened here. Then if we go into the different tracks here, and before I go on what should happen here in the future this year, we have 3 tracks, main tracks for Tagion. We took out the, you could say, the application track, because Tagion is not really an application provider, it's an infrastructure provider. So now we try to divide and conquer a little bit harder, and also divide the responsibilities way harder. So commercial companies building applications on top, or other developers, that's perfectly, but Tagion will focus more hard on the infrastructure and SDKs and so forth and standards. So that's also what we put here in the board. We have got quite a lot of feedback from our partners who also built last year. So they need greater, we call it agility and scalability. It simply means it should be easier to use for developers building on top. So they would like to be able to build without calling all core developers 2 times a day. So quite an effort has been done here and is still in progress. Standardizing APIs and the high RPC methods, documenting those, which has actually been done and is done now, is coming out with the next release. And that also means the documentation. Then also continuous work with the SDKs and the standards is also work in progress. That's Hybon, IRPC, the doc standards, how we do a transaction, a simple transaction, the secure modules you can use, tooling like the CLI wallets and so forth, which you need as a developer. Those things are continuously updated. That's why they just continue and don't stop, because I think that will be an ongoing work. But we work quite extensively trying to optimize the SDKs and the standards for this, basically. So the SDKs also fulfill the standards themselves. Yeah, and then of course VAS and TVM support and libraries for this. This is also an ongoing effort. And these main tracks here will make it way easier, basically, to be a developer or a partner company building on top of the company, so they can work independently of the Tagion core community, basically, or to a high degree at least. So we can scale on top of the Tagion system, and we give agility and flexibility to the developers. And that's very important in terms of getting adoption. That's priority number 1, which we've been working against the last 5 months and will continue doing so. That's basically creating utility and make it possible to do utility on top. Then we have another very important track here. It's called resilience and stability. Distribution of nodes. That's the whole point of actually having a distributed system and also a decentralized system. That is, first of all, the distribution of the system is you get resilience, basically. So you have a system that has more copies of data, where a node can go down and the system continues. It means resilience, right? And also decentralization means it's prone to, like, so there will be no strong mandates basically sitting with all the power and control the system, because this power should be distributed to all the participants in the system. So it's decentralized. That's the power part. It's the governance of the system. That's resilience and stability. Right now we're going after the first part is distribution, it is basically the first goal. And also in the last part, you can say I will not actually call it a bug. We could more call it like a stability threshold for the graph consensus mechanism. There was like a random bug around each 400,000 rounds. So that means like after 4 to 5 weeks, we had like a random consensus error where one of the nodes got another result than the others, which is an algorithmic error, but it was extremely hard to reproduce and test, which is all this has been done now. A lot of work have gone into this. That also means we set the threshold higher now for how many rounds do we want to ensure that the graph is stable in itself. We know at algorithmic errors, so we put it pretty high now to 10 millions. And a lot of work has been done here, and a lot of optimizations as well, and it's ongoing. And we expect it to be done here before summer vacation, and coming out with the next release again here in release 1.4, so we can also it's up here. So that's huge work and very complicated work as well. That will also lead to swapping. They are very much connected, those two. Then we have the network components and interfaces for TCP/IP communication between the nodes. We do, you could say, low-level communication between the nodes, and the communication interfaces has been basically implemented, and a lot of work has gone into this as well. It is also expected to be done here with in a short period of time. It's being tested right now. So that's great. Those two here will lead to that we can go up to running in mode 1, which is one of the main goals here during the summer. Then we have traceability and visibility. And I don't know if any of you heard like, don't tell but show. Nobody wants to be told everything is great. They want to see something or touch something, right? That's much better. We will like to see data, see how the system actually works. So a lot of work has been done here as well, both in the kernel side and the shell side, to create the right mechanism. So you can look up contracts, you can do asynchronous user request in the shell and have the correct caching so it works efficiently and so forth. It's been a lot of work done there. Also remote debugging and logging so you can actually debug if things doesn't work in the shell and in the kernel as well. And also it's been implemented right now, a way to see the transaction history without saving all the full transactions or the full contracts. And if you want to look more into this work, you can go into also the docs on Tagion, where you can see the tips, the Tagion improvement proposals, where one of those here is related, or two of them are related to this one at least. That also means we are working on our first raw explorer now for web, which is also work in progress. So we get a decent explorer for the system, so people can actually see the data. So that's like the main three, you could say, tracks or like themes which we are working on this year in the core team in terms of the technical tracks. And so we want to get up to mode 1 here, and then we want to have an explorer as well just after summer. Then we will say, okay, mode 1 needs to be distributed as well. We want to set it up on distributed nodes, like it's the infrastructure which is runs on. When we start here, we'll run on a centralized server, basically hosting more nodes, but still in mode 1 with network interfaces. And here we create a little bit more complex infrastructure. And because it requires tooling and so forth, it's harder to set up and debug. And then we also have started working on the monetary or credit part of the system again, and also the governance part. A lot of work is going into this, and also discussion have started. So also, if you're interested in this and want to read or contribute, please shout out somewhere here in general, or in general, then we can direct you. So work is ongoing here, because the main goal of the Tagion system is still to create, you could say, a monetary and banking infrastructure, and meaning like creating the foundation for the credit system, clearing systems, transaction systems, like real financial systems. That requires proper governance as well. So we also for real started up on this work again, so to speak, because that was also the idea from the outset, actually. But before we can start working with the actual application of the system, then we need to make the system work first. And now we actually at a point in time where that start to make sense. So that's great. And then we expect end of year we have at least 3 new applications on top for the whole year, and also 1 new onboarded partner together with the current partner we have and the current applications. And then before the year's over and out, we should be in mode 2 as well. And I can just come back to what the different modes means. So that's like the roadmap for this year, and I think it's doable and realistic as well, because everybody who's working on the team are performing very well, and it has very good progress. So that's actually the overall target. That also means when we're in mode 2, it starts to become more and more distributed, the system. So it is actually also moving according to plan in this direction. So that's very satisfying as well. If we dig a little bit more into the technical part and what it means, we'll do that in 2 seconds. But maybe like if I should take some highlights, we are starting to focus again on the governance part and monetary part of the whole utilization of the infrastructure. Basically, we're starting to work much more in this direction, to create utility in this direction and create the right features and infrastructure to support this. This is very important for us. This is the whole reason why we are doing this project from the outset anyways. So this is going to be more intensified and started up again. More we are aiming for more utility and demand, as Jonas also said before. We are actually doing our best to help the first developers and builders build on top, make it usable and also to some degree user-friendly at least, so we can actually in practical terms develop on top of the system, so we get more utility. And that's also one of the main goals for this year, to go ahead with this, and of course at the same time get resilience and stability of the system, because there is no reason to have a distributed system if it's not distributed. I mean, then it's just a waste of time, right? So that's of course some of the highlights which we're aiming for this year. I don't know if it makes any sense, or any questions or comments in this regard. Otherwise, we can jump a bit more into the technical parts. Cheap, no mouse. Oh, you cannot see my mouse. Yeah, I'm sorry for this. It's not very smart. There is no laser pointer or anything. Okay, cool. Then I think I'll just stop the sharing here and then jump to some other documentation. Now we go a bit more into the technical status. What are you saying, Tim? I can see Carsten is here as well. Now, there's more here. He's currently working in the core team. I can also see Vlad and Alex here. Anyways, if anybody wants to go on stage, I'll just share my browser, if you can figure out to do this. It's all documentation and technical things that's been reached. Because I think it's a bit boring if only me who's presenting and discussing here. So let's do the Firebox and go on. So here is the tips, for example, you see them here. Here is the transaction verification, which I just referred to before. You can go in here and read the different proposals. Some of them are already implemented. But here in the docs, under, I think it's protocol, or is it architecture? No, it's architecture, different modes. So we have some different modes, and we started in the lowest modes, meaning how we operate the system. How is the operation mode of the system? Right now we're running in mode 0. Can you see my screen? Actually, I cannot hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically been stable. We had one down period here. I think it was like a month ago now, since February one time. That's it. And that was due to, I think it was a service which ran out of memory, out of storage. So not actually like a consensus error on the system. That's it. So it's been actually very stable. And then we are aiming for mode 1 very, very soon, meaning instead of having, you could say, have one separate program where we have inter-process or thread communication within the same program, we go out to have separate nodes or separate programs communicating with each other over a network interface. And that's more or less, that's in good progress now. And we expect that to be ready to go live rather soon, as I just said. There was in the 1.4 release, which will come rather soon. And then the end goal for the year is mode 2. And that allows, if a node falls out of the system in mode 1, it cannot rejoin again. It's just lost, and we need to restart the whole system. That's not really resilient, but it still runs in a distributed manner. And it doesn't. So in mode 0, everything crashes if one node, you could say, if anything goes wrong in the program, if all nodes are running in the same program, everything goes down. In mode 1 here, it's separate programs running, communicating with each other. So if something goes wrong in one of the nodes, it's only that node that is affected and not the whole system itself. But still, we need to reboot the whole system to get all nodes on again. So not so smart. But here in mode 2, there will be a catch-up mechanism where they can synchronize and then rejoin the system. The same nodes, not new nodes, but the same nodes. And that's where it starts to become very resilient. And then in mode 3, that's where we have swapping as well. So basically nodes can exit and join the consensus mechanism on an ongoing basis. So that's the 3 main operating modes. Then there is mode 4 and mode 5, but let us not talk about this right now. But that's of course the aim, mode 2 this year. So that's about it. And I'll just, if you're interested in what's happening, go in here. All the standards, all the high-RPC methods, the commands you can do against the databases and shell, everything it's basically documented in here. Then if we go to GitHub, hey Carsten, are you here actually, or Lucas or someone? No?
Can anybody hear me? I don't know how this works. So,
Yeah, I hear you, Carsten. Hey,
yeah.
I actually want to join.
Yeah, so I don't know what to say, but
we can just continue going on here and jamming a bit, like what's actually have been released and also what's going to happen.
Actually a lot. Because we are working on, you can say, 3 or 4 different tracks or 3 or 4 different problems, or you can say systems. So we're working on the distribution on the network side. Then we are working on the, you can say, the preparation on the TVM in the VASM. We are working on, because we have worked a lot on improving the hash graph, so it's much more resilient. And it runs much faster, uses much less resources right now than it did before. We actually had last summer, we reconstructed the hash graph, and now we have actually reconstructed it again. Not reconstructed, but a lot of optimization, and we have done a very smart way of running. It's very efficient. Yeah, and then we have done a lot on the interface, on, as you also said, how we standardize the interface from the wallet. We have also written the whole SDK interface for the whole system when you use an application. Yeah, so we have done a lot, but the last half year has really moved fast, I would say, because now we actually have a lot of systems that work, so it's easy to work with. One of the reasons that we have this also is that we have a very, very efficient test system framework, which allows us to run continuous integration very efficient. So yeah, we introduced this beginning of last year, and it had actually revolutionized the way we work. The productivity is much higher than it was before, and because we have a smarter way of doing testing, and it's always up to date. So we can actually say that we in the beginning we were throwing more lines of code out than we were adding. So, yeah, so the system is very clean right now. Of course, we still have a lot to do, but it's nice to work with.
And if you want to see what's actually happening in the different releases and what's been in the current release is 1.2 that is currently operating on our main servers. Right now, release 1.3 is being tested. And I don't know, actually, I got a status today from Philip, who said that it's currently going as planned, the test. And that their hope is that if nothing goes wrong and the test goes as it should, they can release this for production on Monday. And that means like we haven't done a release since February, so there's a lot of work in the next release, and also a lot of, as Carsten is saying, a lot of API work, a lot of SDK work, which has been simplified, and you can actually go in here and see all what has been done. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. And again, the system has been running.
Yeah, actually, this is also a point where the system which is running now has actually run for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
And we are continuously testing because we don't want to just upgrade if you don't break something. We want to test it rigorously before, so that the release we have now is actually not the new stuff, but it's what we have developed, because it still runs mode 0, but it's not the part of mode 1, the new everything else, but it's updated for the interface and some more resilient stuff. It's not
you can see you broke the main flow, but I guess you're updating a lot of stuff. But I just wanted to show like the whole CI and CD flow that's been created, right? So if any of you wants to dig into this as well, you can just go in and check it out and see how it works. It's an amazing job that and a testing framework that's been done, and the pipelines, both CI and also CD pipelines, with all the different machines and build machines and testing machines and you name it, that's been set up to run all these different flows here. So we have CI flows here, like on the commit stage and build and unit test. You have all kind of different acceptance flows. You have a lot of different CDD tests basically running automatically, CD test flows running automatically, and automatically then creating the artifacts if everything goes wrong. And most importantly, feedback the errors to the developers who then can
Yeah,
see
exactly. If there's an error, it's easy to find out where it is, or at least which test it is. So we have a simple way of finding out what's going wrong. We both have because we are running behavior-driven development on some of it, and we get the failure on those also both in the browser and of course locally. So we can run all the tests locally, but we can also run them on the system. So we can what we do is that we have something called commit state. So we run this before we commit, and then we have an acceptance stage which is running longer test, and then we of course also have a longitudinal test which we are right now building up for mode 1, where we can run longer tests like days or weeks.
Yeah. So I guess now we lost quite a lot of people. Anyways, so this is like the status on the tech. It's been running stable. It's continued to progress and being optimized and bug fixed basically as it should. So yeah, I guess that's the overall technical status. I don't know if there's any concrete questions to the tech or some question in this regard. Okay. Because that's actually like the 3 main topics which we prepared for today. We promised to prepare. And I don't know if like Jonas or others in the audience have questions.
I think I have anything else to add or any questions for now.
And just both and like if you have interesting projects within like transactions or microtransactions or credit systems or something in this regard, then please ping us as well. Me, Christian, just right in general. We are of course very open to speak with everyone right now, also because we are actually at a point now where we can actually start supporting projects. So that's nice. And we are starting to work with more and more serious projects right now. So that's also extremely nice. Like applications building on top.
I see there's one question. Nice.
Yeah, that's a good question, lad. Yes. So maybe that needs a bit of explanation. So the contract service, or you can say the contract lookup TRT. Yes, that is working. It's implemented. It's working in the kernel, and it's not a part of the Dart. It's a separate database, of course. So it's working as part of the kernel, and there is a shell to interface with it as well to cache data. So yes, it's implemented. It works, and you should look into the chip on contract tracing and to understand what we've been thinking about this. We try to make a system where.
Also to mention to Lad on some of the things we talked about, Lad, is that now we actually have. So we will also be able to look up the executed contract, the hash of the executed contract, which we don't have in the current system. Just and this is also we have now, so we can look up the public key and then find the information which one is. We can do this in the TRT now, and we are going to extend this as we have in some of the tips. we will extend this, so we have a more functionality on this, so it's easier to find out. The problem is, of course, you have to prove, or you have to have a way to prove that you have paid the transaction. And I know, Vlad, we have talked a lot about this previously, so this is some of the things we are actually making.
Yeah, and the first functionality is coming out with the next release 1.3, hopefully next week in production. And there's going to be two ways you can basically check if your transaction has gone through. You can subscribe to it, like get immediate feedback from a node, or you can also query the contract lookup on a node. So that there's going to be like two ways of doing this. If this node operates this functionality, of course, but this is how it's going to work. Yeah, I don't know if it makes sense, Vlad. Yeah. You can, so that's a good question. What is findable actually? Because the consensus data, and now it's going to be hairy, very hairy, I guess. And I think so what we agree on, what is the consensus data, is of course the current state of the database. You can say the UTXOs, we don't store all the contracts in the database. It's not a blockchain. So it's the final state of the current state of data which we store. But we also have all the, you could say, records, right? And their hashes, which are also, and that also means the transaction hashes that's been executed, they are also secured with consensus, but not the data itself. But of course, the nodes will probably keep this data, and they can request it from each other. And that's why you can look it up on a kernel node as well. At least you can prove it if you have the data yourself. Probably the nodes will have it, or you can keep the data for yourself and then prove it, because you can prove it cryptographically with the consensus data. That's like the very short version of it. And I know, Carsten, we can give a lot longer version, but I'm not sure it's.
I think Vlad understands a lot, but it's probably about because you have worked with it. But it's actually so now you can
exactly.
you can verify, which we couldn't do before. We can verify that a contract have executed in an epoch. So you can actually prove that this transaction is gone through, and we can't do this, and we are not going to update the next one. It's not going to be with this feature. It's going to be probably in version 1.3, but this is something that we are working on. So because this is of course a general problem that you can't prove that you're paid. So.
But that was a pretty hard one to solve that, and you know this. It's because we still only want to keep the state, so we don't keep a lot of data forever. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and it's of course a choice, because other chains, they keep the whole contract or the whole, and we don't want to explode the database. So we only keep the consensus data, and everything else is actually on the client side to prove between each other that there is a consensus, but you have data enough in the system to prove it against two parties.
Cool. Any more questions or comments, or anybody who wants to come and jam on stage? No. No. Yeah. Then I guess like we've done right for this town hall at least. I'm very glad some of you are attending and keep attending. That's very nice. And the project is going well. It's continuing. So we'll for sure have more town halls. We discussed actually putting on another platform at some point. But we need to investigate where to actually host it elsewhere, because I guess a lot of people have problems with figuring out Discord. But we kept it here to make it simple for ourselves, at least for now. But yeah, I guess that's more like a technical thing.